this decision we have to make right now is, how do you scale? Because we want to build products, but there's also this big book of client work that if we just said yes to all of it, it's going to take people and time away from our long-term goal of building the product.
Really quick, before we jump into today's episode, I want to introduce you to me and my podcast. So I'm Dylan. This is Behind the Bill. I interview small business owners because I love small business. I think it's a great opportunity that we have to take our future and our careers into our own hands and hustle and build a business. And there's no better way to learn how to do that than interviewing other people that are in the hustle every day doing this. If you're interested in learning more about me, Behind the Bill, or my business that I run, you can go to infactodigital.com. We make it super simple for small business owners to get online without even needing a computer. Again, if you are interested in that, please go to infactodigital.com to learn more. Also, I would love to hear what you think about this podcast. I want to make this as good as possible, so please let me know what you think. Again, honesty is the key, so leave a review, and I will make this the best that I can. So why don't you introduce me to your to who you are and what you do?
Sure. Caleb Birch, software developer. I've been in the industry since 2012, 13 is when I graduated and started working a real job. Started off kind of an enterprise developer at Steel Dynamics. I was an intern there and graduated into a full-time software engineer. I was there for a couple years. Saw an opportunity at Sweetwater. I was a customer. I started buying some drum sets and some guitars. So when that came open, I thought that was a pretty good chance to hop over there. I was there for about 5 years. Primarily worked on the web team. Saw a pretty big shift in what we did. We were a very small team when I joined in 2014. When I left in 2019, that had exploded, which you're very aware of.
Yeah.
And so then, in 2019, I decided to, kind of go out on my own, as they say, and do software development, just contracting, and kind of be my own boss in a way. When I did leave, I started working with a family member who, we did complementing things. He worked primarily in accounting systems and implementing business systems. I did custom software development. So those two things fit pretty well together. So we kind of joined forces in a way where I was pretty independent on what I was doing and the projects I was working on. But we shared a lot of the same infrastructure. We shared a lot of overhead costs, payroll and accounting and all insurance and all that type of stuff. So that certainly was helpful. It's a lot harder to just start something from scratch or be entirely by yourself. Thankfully, I was able to kind of jump into some pre-existing infrastructure and kind of start my own little thing within that. And then fast forward a few years, and here we are at BT Pro. Started with Matt Trudy. We officially started back in September, and just a handful of months later, we're I think 10 or 11 people total.
Yeah. So we got a lot to get into there. So, why don't you tell me, like, what was the not shortcut, but what made it easy jumping into something? Like your usage was infrastructure. What was the benefit of doing that versus starting your own? I'm assuming you just used his LLC and business structure and
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah. So it was an S corp.
Sure. Yeah.
But there was all that stuff I didn't have to do necessarily. I could have done it, but
yeah.
A big thing was overhead costs. You have to pay for an accounting system. You have to have some sort of business liability insurance. Just things like email, website, all those things are overhead that it was nice to just kind of be able to split that and share that, as well as just having, um, in a way, some existing clients. Again, we didn't work on the same things, but some of his clients from the business systems, I was able to hop in and do some custom development for. And also, um, companies take you a little more seriously when you're not just a single person out there doing software development. You
Yeah.
know, even though behind the scenes I was the only person actually doing custom development, I had a little more front to me, a business name that had been around for 20 years. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and just the almost a facade of having a larger company when it's just me doing that work.
Yeah. For sure. So you got to piggyback off of their brand, their
Yep.
the client book already. So it sounds like you really just came in and helped that business expand to their offerings.
Yeah.
Really.
And really, it was just me and him then.
Yeah.
He was working by himself too, so it's not like we had a big company to start off with.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it certainly helped, and also just to keep me um, directionally focused in a way where I think if I was by myself, there's not necessarily anybody um, ping ideas off of to just um, kind of be that check and balance for anything, and just keep you motivated and um, yeah, go in the right direction.
Yeah. So in that time, you were also building products, right? So you were solving business problems, but you also had some product ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, the idea of building a product was something that I have wanted to do forever since I
Hmm.
started software development. I always thought, I could just build something and then run that app or whatever it was. Um, I never had a huge ambition to just continually develop custom things for people. I always wanted to build a product and run that. Um, yeah, when I was at Sweetwater, kind of, I was trying to do that with some race timing stuff, but you know how it is. You have a full-time job trying to do something like that on the side. Uh, you don't stay focused. You get tired.
Yeah.
You just can't finish it. But yes, with this new arrangement where I could set my own schedule and take on as much work as I wanted to or didn't want to, I was able to fit a little more product development time in. So um, it was less than a year, maybe just several months after I started doing this stuff. We got connected with a nursing home around where I live, and they had some needs for a time clock system that their current solution wasn't really fitting. Um, so just had the thought of, okay, can we build something and turn that into a product that we could sell, primarily integrating with a an ERP system from Microsoft called Business Central. That was going to be the kind of the niche it fit into. It was going to integrate with this system where there wasn't really a whole lot of other things that integrated with that. So, started off just building that kind of like a custom solution at the beginning. And then once it launched, once all the kinks were worked out, um, then started turning that, transforming that into a project for them into a product, allowing multiple tenants to run on it, kind of expanding the feature set far beyond what that customer ever needed it for,
Hmm.
in hopes to attract a wide audience. Um, yeah, so I did that for several years. Um, I wish I had had more customers on it. in some ways. Uh, but overall, that customer that we started off with was the only one that I ever onboarded onto that platform.
Hmm.
Um, and that's okay. In the end, it worked out. But I spent a lot of time focusing on engineering and not nearly enough time focusing on sales and marketing, which I think is probably a very common problem that somebody in my shoes would face.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, we did a few, maybe two different expos where I went to different conferences and presented and had a booth. So I was actively trying to grow the customer base, and I think it was not a lack of interest in the platform, because when I went to those expos and I collected pages of leads, but I'm ashamed to say I never truly followed up on
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
Again, because I was just so focused on making the platform as perfect as I could get it, that it was never ready for the next person because it wasn't done.
Mhm.
So kind of my downfall there.
Yeah. How did you get those leads? You went to the expo. What were you doing to get the people to give you their info?
Um, well, I mentioned that it integrated into Business Central, the ERP system, and that was kind of its selling point in these particular conferences.
Yeah.
These two shows were, the first one was made for Microsoft partners. The second one was made for Microsoft customers. So everybody there is either implementing or using these ERP systems, and in that environment, there's a heavy focus on, like, does this thing integrate with my current software? People people really want stuff that talks together out of the box. So that was my selling point to those groups. That, hey, we have this robust time and attendance scheduling system that integrates directly into the platform you're already using. Um, so yeah, I had a lot of people express interest there. Again, I wish I would have followed up some, but I think
Yeah.
I probably could have onboarded several more.
Yeah. So you had a really good offering. You were hitting a pain point that was real. You
Hmm.
got the leads, but you were product focused
Yes.
so
Yeah,
much.
if I would have hired somebody to do sales and onboarding, I think that would have been smart. If if in the end we stuck with the product and
Yeah.
trying to sell it.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
what ended up happening with the product?
Yeah. So it's not all a bad story. I saw the one customer.
Hmm.
Um, one day out of the blue, we get an email from a company that's just like, we're exploring time and attendance solutions. Would you be interested in an acquisition? And just exploring an acquisition. They weren't
Sure.
making an offer at the point. And the initial email was actually, we just ignored it because that sounds really spammy,
Yeah.
right? Nobody just emails somebody like that. They followed up maybe a week or two later on the email, and then we thought, okay, maybe this is actually real. We knew of the company. They're a big Microsoft partner. They have software products of their own.
Hmm.
So yeah, decided to take the call. Realized it was actually real. Um, uh, Again, they're a Microsoft partner, so I think that was actually a perfect fit because we were focused on the Microsoft stack.
Yep.
They focused on the Microsoft stack. So um, I don't know how many other systems they were potentially reaching out to, talking to. I would imagine if they did their due diligence, a few. But in the end, um, did several demos, ran through a bunch of different scenarios with, yeah, every time we had a call, it was with more and more people. So it definitely was getting more real. And eventually one day they said, okay, what's your number? How much would you want how much would you sell this platform for? And that was a really, really hard question to answer
Yeah.
because I have no idea.
Yeah.
The typical model of trying to value a system like this did not work because it had one customer.
Yeah.
So, I
Wasn't really
was trying to
competitive with no one
extrapolate,
so much.
right, extrapolate some sort of MRR and turn that into um, a sale value. Wasn't going to work. Um, it was really hard to judge how long. Like another thing they could have based it on was how long would it take them to rebuild the platform.
Yeah.
And I tried to think through that. The number that we had in our head on day one was about a third of what we actually sold it for, which is great.
Yeah.
That so we came up with a number, and I started talking to more people. I talked to Matt Trudy, talked to several others. I kind of spent like all weekend talking to people and just kind of coming to grips with what that number could be. And I took my number here and eventually turned that into a number up here, um, and sent back. We'll let it go for this number. They came back. This was over Thanksgiving time too, so
Of what year? Of
this
23?
was at the end of 23. Yeah,
Okay.
Thanksgiving of 23.
Okay.
Uh, which kind of stunk because a lot of people were out of the office. And
Yeah.
so after I sent that number, I think it was actually about 2 weeks before they came back with a real response.
Oh
And so
God.
over that 2 weeks, I don't think I slept very well.
Yeah.
And in the following 6 months too. Um, but they came back and said, yeah, we like your offer. Here's a counter. And they countered just slightly below that top number. And it was an unreal number for somebody like myself.
Yeah.
Um, so we actually countered back just a little bit higher. That they stuck with their guns and said, no, we're going to go with their original counter.
What
But
about the bill?
they're,
Please don't go away.
yeah, right. I and I was not going to counter, but several people I talked to said, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the
Yeah.
worst that could happen is that they pull
Kind of
out. So that
disappears.
would not be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just said, no, we're going to stick with our original.
Yeah.
And their methodology that they justified the number at, they, which is actually kind of what I thought at the beginning, they said it would take our team this many months or whatever to rebuild at this price, and with a multiplier on top.
Yeah.
They said it was going to be this for them to rebuild, and they're going to multiply that by 3 or something, just because they get it in one day.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what they came back with. I think then it took nearly 2 months, 2 to 3 months actually, to finally close the deal. This is during that time there was a lot of due diligence that they had to do. They gave me all sorts of Excel sheets that I had to fill out and answer questions. Um, Tons of stuff. I had to provide a ton of documents. Um, but one interesting thing is that they're buying this giant code base, but until the day it closed, they never actually saw any code. I thought they would, before purchase, want to come in and inspect things, whatever. They didn't see a single line of code until the day of closing. So that
Huh.
was really interesting. Um, as a dev, I think I'm always worried about what other people will judge my code like.
Yep.
Um, so that was 2 months of not a lot of sleep. Just like, okay, is this going to close? Is something going to fall through? What are they going to find that they don't like? Whatever. So I think it was like February 4th, February 12th, or something like that. Maybe the 20th, whatever. Until that day, I don't know, maybe got a few hours of sleep every night.
Yeah.
I wake up at like 5 in the morning
Ugh.
and just be sweating. It's like, I can't let this deal fall through.
Yeah.
But in the end, it closed. They sent us money. I gave them code.
Yeah.
Um, and here we are.
Yeah. Have you heard anything from them since?
Well, okay. So post closing, part of the deal was that I would help them implement and integrate it into their existing systems.
Okay.
They had other software platforms that they've developed. They had some payroll systems. They had an education management platform, which is a perfect fit for the time clock system. It fits perfectly with payroll. You need both. Um, so yeah, I helped integrate several other systems into Time Clock Now, and you know, add a few minor features in the platform. I was obviously the most familiar with it. They had, I think they from the beginning threw 3 developers into it, and I would spend some time um, answering questions, teaching them about the platform. Um, but yeah, so that was the first 6 months. I was heavily involved with the integration, and then 3 months after that, I was supposed to be available for questions and calls. Um, they didn't actually use a lot of that time. Even from the beginning, I was very surprised. They didn't ask me a lot of questions. I think they wanted to try to solve things themselves, maybe learn the platform a little bit better. But yeah, I did not receive as many questions as I thought I was going to.
Nice.
So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
But since then, I haven't heard much. I actually haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah.
You think about like a fit of the platform to the market. With their existing customers, they have hundreds, maybe thousands of customers. Uh, they were immediately able to just throw dozens of different customers into the platform, and they used it.
Yeah.
So it's actually getting some use now, as far as I understand. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, I wish I would have had a existing customer base that I could have thrown, 100 new customers into the platform just overnight.
Yeah.
But that's where we are.
Yeah. Distribution is king, man. They already
It
had.
is.
But that's great. Like you built a system that you built for multiple people to use, and multiple people are using it.
Yep.
Uh, and you don't have to maintain it.
Yeah, not
So
anymore. And
yeah,
yeah, thinking about um, my plan, if I would have somehow scaled it, if I
yeah,
would have throughout those conferences had dozens of new customers come on board, I don't know how I could have done that myself. Thinking back, I would have had to have hired people to help me. Even just from the standpoint of what if the thing goes down at 3 in the morning?
yep,
Do I want to be always online for that? Do I want to always be on call vacation? It would have been, it's something that I didn't think through in the beginning. I was just like, I want to build a platform. I want to have people use it. I want to get new customers, whatever. Without thinking that far into the future, I think, okay, I'll solve it when I get there. But it would have been a lot of work.
yeah. Well, let's play pretend.
Yeah.
I think like the whole reason for this is for like entrepreneurs to have like tactical takeaways, and even if it's just speculation. And we'll get into BT Pro now, but like what you've learned so far in BT Pro and the people you've worked with, and you've had that experience. If you were talking, if Caleb now could talk to Caleb, 2 years ago, however long ago that was,
hmm
what kind of advice or what kind of game plan would you give him? Like, I have a product. I even have a good enough offering where I can get leads, and you know how much cash
hmm
you had. It's like, what would you go do given, probably a tighter budget than, a business would have if you're just one person? What would you do?
It would have been to launch earlier.
Hmm.
And everybody says this with any product, is just launch early, get it out there, test the market. It is the exact opposite of what I did. I spent way too much time building out features, which in the end worked out because I had a nice, robust platform. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Um, so I should have just got it out there way earlier, cared less about all the details. I should have also just bit the bullet and tried to hire somebody to help me from the beginning. And that's a challenge I face right now, is that, you know, coming into BT Pro, I came in with all of my existing clients, so I have a ton of knowledge of those people. And we're so overall busy that it's hard for me to pass off those clients, especially some of the smaller ones, to somebody else. We have a number of employees now, but there are still some clients that I am the 100%. I 100% work on them
Yeah.
just because they're smaller and their needs are far and few between. So they need something, I just go and do it. To my mind, it's faster if I just go and do it. It would take 2 to 3 times longer if I had to pull somebody in, show them how to do it. And if I would have taken that mindset a year ago to try to offset, or 2 years ago, I guess, to try to get some of my load off, where I could have focused on maybe building or expanding the marketing or sales pipeline or whatever. I wish I could have done that. In the end, I have no regrets.
Yeah, sure.
But it's something that we're trying to fix now too. It's just how do we make it so that I'm not such a bottleneck, having all of these clients still come directly to me, and having so much domain knowledge over some of the other ones
Yeah.
that our guys need to be able to do this stuff without me, and they can, 100% they can. But sometimes I find myself fielding the requests right from the beginning, where I should really say, okay, I'm going to pass it off to one of these guys and have them do it, just
Yeah.
so I'm not the bottleneck there.
Yeah. That's been very hard for me. And I think any engineer specifically to hand a project off,
Mhm.
or even just the small business owner who is trying to scale, like the first hire is never good enough, that kind of thing. Like it's very difficult. And so I can
Yeah,
definitely empathize with you there. Which kind
yeah,
of,
and
go ahead.
I give a lot of credit to Matt. Um, one of the reasons I couldn't hire somebody 2 years ago was because I've never hired anybody before. I don't know how to hire somebody. I know how to do it mechanically, but I don't know how to be their boss and onboard them and give them a good experience. At least I didn't know how to do that back then.
Yeah.
And thankfully, partnering up with Matt, who had done that dozens, 100 times, whatever, at Sweetwater, um, he was able to really give them a good experience once they came on board.
Hmm. Yeah. That's good. So, so how has this experience and what you've learned kind of shaped your approach now to business decisions? Like what has changed there?
Um, well, I think I really value now having another person. Matt and I are 50-50 in the company. So having another person like that, whereas before it was, me making most of the decisions for the direction of Time Clock Now and trying to do that mostly development-wise by myself. Um, but I definitely value having another person who has just as much stake in it as I do. And you think, if you're doing something by yourself, my thought was, okay, I don't want to give up 50% of the value. Like
Yep.
that's, in the end, that could be a ton of money. But you think you may get 10 times as large with other people involved.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't work out always by yourself.
Yeah.
Now today, with some of the AI capability where you're kind of expanding yourself virtually. I think it's opening doors for a lot of more solopreneurs. We've seen that all over the internet. We'll see how that goes. I think there's still a lot of merit to having somebody else involved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, just the overall idea of delegating things. And I will also say that it's a whole different world of numbers to me. So a few years ago, um, just having the volume of work that we have now would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and just like the numbers that we're dealing with from what we bill clients per month or whatever, that was an unrealistic number for me. But now, having 10, 11 people, you can do the math of how much we
Mm-hmm.
have to pay out for salaries, and that
Mm-hmm.
number is just like an everyday thing now. So that's something that I'm still kind of getting used to. Is these big numbers just an everyday occurrence? Um, it's very interesting. Obviously, the more people you have in the company, the more expense you have.
Yeah.
So, your costs scale as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So 10 to 11 people means probably close to 10 or 11 the volume, at least how much you're billing out and how much is
Hmm.
getting done. So I could imagine it's quite the awakening there.
Yeah, and
So
well, as a company, we're focusing on both client work, as we call it, and product work. Um, so trying to create the next time clock now
yeah,
scenario where we build a product and we either run it and onboard customers to it, or maybe one day we'll build a product and it gets acquired.
yep,
Um, so so some of our people are dedicated to client work, which is billable. We charge by the hour or by the project or whatever it is, and that is funding a lot of the work for product development.
yeah. Which let's get into that.
Yeah,
Let's talk about how BT Pro started. So from Caleb just doing client work and building time clock now to where you are now, give me like a kind of a timeline of events that happened.
sure. Um, well, yeah. So the Time Clock Now acquisition, was finalized. So that was obviously going to free up my schedule a little bit more once that was all done. I, in the meantime, kept acquiring more client work, probably more client work than I could handle myself. And I could handle what I was doing right there at the time, but the clients wanted to do more.
Right. So this is
Um,
the same amount of clients, just more work they
mhm,
want done.
yeah,
Okay.
and um, there was never a shortage of clients. Had to turn down some things once in a while.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no, but it did happen sometimes. Um, but what Matt and I did when he decided to step out of Sweetwater and we're going to do something ourselves, we looked at the clients that I was bringing on, which I will say Matt actually supplied me with a few clients back in
Yeah.
2019. So he gave me some of those. I handled them for 5 years, and now we're back working with them together.
Yeah.
So it kind of came full circle. We went to some of those clients and said, okay, we're starting a new company. We're trying to figure out how much we need to scale. Like if we said, we're going to give you more developers, how much work could you actually give us and for how long?
Yeah.
So that kind of set our initial scale level. Some of our clients said, yeah, we could support 2 developers for 2 years worth of stuff. And so just kind of adding that all together, how many people do we need to hire on day one?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we did that. Um, eventually we get more and more leads, more clients. And it certainly is, scaling is hard from the standpoint of when do you hire somebody? When do you hire somebody new, or when do you say no to a customer or client? When do you just say, we can do it, but maybe in 3 months? It's a really, really hard thing that we've found. Um, yeah, so we're continuing to go through that process. We just had some more leads this week, some new potential client meetings. And if we said yes to all these projects that are in the pipeline right now, I don't know how we would actually get them done.
Yeah.
So
Even with
we'll
11
see.
people.
Yeah. Now, not everybody right now is a developer. We have two non-developer
Okay.
people currently. And then Matt and myself, uh, I mostly do development still, but Matt and myself still do a lot of uh, focusing on the business.
Yeah.
So some time spent there not actually doing development work.
Yeah. So what's your main worry in the business right now?
I would say it's this path, or this decision we have to make right now is, how do you scale? Because we want to build products, but there's also this big book of client work
Yeah.
that, if we just said yes to all of it, it's going to take people and time away from our long-term goal of building the product.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing, is that we just don't do enough product development fast enough. The other worry, I would say, goes hand in hand with that. Um, with AI now, it's you're seeing new products launch every day that have these big feature sets, um, and just kind of doing some of the things that we want to build into our products. And so it's, if we don't build our products now and get them launched now, how many other platforms are going to, steal the idea, or just come up with the same ideas and be first to market,
Yeah.
be the be the market before us? And so
Mhm.
that's a worry. Um, we've already had a couple small product ideas that kind of got shelved or replaced just by how fast the market is moving. That, we had an idea here, but all of a sudden, a few weeks later, that feature is already built into half a dozen other
Yeah.
products. So just being able to pivot quickly into other things and not being super stuck on a specific product
Yeah.
probably will fix that.
Mhm. So with so many priorities to focus on, what is your uh what is your current process for trying to figure out what to focus on?
Mine personally, like I mentioned before, I still have too many clients that I'm the person doing the work. So right now
Yeah.
there's an active effort to try to move me off of that and to get me focused more on product development.
Hmm.
We have great guys, developers here who can take over some of that work. So I'm not worried about that part. It's just the act of actually doing it
Yeah.
and finding time in the week to offload that. So yeah, that's going to be a major goal over the next couple weeks, is just to have more hours of my time in the week doing product development, um, whatever that ends up looking like. Uh, that is that is what has to happen if we want to launch any of these things.
Yeah. So how did you get to the decision to do more product development? Because you could easily do more client work and someone else do the product development. But why go the route of you do the product development and someone else take over the client work that you're working on?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, Well, being the owner of the company, I can work on whatever I want to work on. I get the
Sure.
final say.
Yeah.
But um, that's a great point. We could technically hire people to do this directly.
Yeah.
Um, and I trust any of our guys we have now currently to be able to just go in and work on a product. Um, but we see we see the overall trajectory of the company in the next several years being the biggest part of the company will be product revenue. And so I just want to make sure that we're focused on that. Um, and me doing it, I'm sad to say that I don't constrict myself very well to the 8 to 5 hours. I will
Hmm.
probably spend um, 60 hours a week working on stuff like this. So if there was anything that I want to be overworked, it's the product side. And I don't want to tell my developers that they have to work longer hours. So and Matt will not be happy at me for admitting all this, that I
Yeah.
work more than, you know, whatever our normal weekly hours is. But I really want these things launched. I want them launched well. So just spending as much time as I can on them will certainly help.
Yeah. So the main thing is you want uh like you want these products out fast so
Mhm.
bad that you're not going to
Yeah,
ask your team to have 60-hour weeks, and you shouldn't.
yeah, right,
But it is something that you want to do,
right,
and so you're doing it. I respect that. That's pretty cool.
yeah. And like,
I did it as
I
well.
don't know if I just don't need a lot of sleep. I I go to bed pretty late and I wake up at a pretty normal time.
Yeah.
So I may get like 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night on like a normal night. Sometimes if I'm really ambitious, I'll get 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Sure, I'm a little tired once in a while, but I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know. Maybe I just don't need as much sleep as the average person. I think it varies from person to person. Maybe I
Mhm.
got lucky that it's not great for me.
Yeah. Um, but I want to go down a lot of rabbit trails right now, but I want to stick with, I think the biggest thing to get out of this little section right here is like, uh, the delegation part. You're putting client work on your team so
Hmm.
that you can free yourself up to essentially do only the work that you can do. Like my philosophy on assigning work to someone else is you should only be doing the work that only you can do. Everything else should be assigned to somebody else. So,
Hmm.
what is your game plan for bringing those other developers on? Like, get really tactical. Like, what's it look like? Does it look like you're handing off 20% of the work? Are you doing it one task at a time? Um, Act like you're telling me how to do it, because I also want to know how do I assign work to people and I don't have to do it myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. And myself, I worked by myself development for 4 to 5 years. And so um, I'm I'm not an expert at trying to work with a
Yeah.
team, a large team like that. I'm just so used to being able to just get in there, do everything I need to do without anybody else caring or knowing about what I'm doing
Hmm.
or having to coordinate anything. So it's going to be a challenge for myself too once we get into that. Um, one thing that we're trying to do with the platform is create it in a very modular way where these pieces could be very independent and almost live by themselves.
Hmm.
So I think that will help. If certain developers or certain teams will own pieces of the platform, um, that maybe that's how we solve that. But there's obviously going to be some toes being stepped on once in a while.
Yeah.
The other thought is we're not just working on one product, we are working on several. So if that ends up being, it's distributed just by product, if we have 3 or 4 different products being worked on at the same time, then everybody gets their own product to work on. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I think just also specializing across that, if we have specific skill sets in DevOps, we have specific skill sets in AI, um, maybe people will just own those pieces of the platforms of the products. Um, but yeah, I do think, we're heavily focused in AI productivity right now, so that if one person can, with the help of their AI assistants and agents, run with a single product, and just that one person works on it, maybe you split it up between backend and front end developer. Maybe it gets that far. But I definitely see AI helping there
Yeah.
because, takes the place of a couple junior developers where you can really lead the direction of the platform or the product. And your formerly junior developers are now your co-pilots and your
Yeah.
cursors. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like just implementing the tools uh, to make it easier for things to not be so dependent on one person. Because even
Hmm.
the agents and the models helping people code can also help document. And so,
Well, yeah.
which is, roughly a third, or could be the third of an engineer's time.
Hmm.
If you were to have a developer build something for 10 hours, it could easily be documented over the course of 3 hours.
I've never been a great tester,
Hmm.
so I'm really hoping that this takes the place of all that.
Yeah. What are you guys doing? What are you guys using for testing? Are you guys using AI for tests for like
Um,
unit or end to end?
well, there's a lot of playwright tests. So primarily, uh, we've been focusing on the .NET stack, and
Hmm.
Playwright fits very nicely into that, which is like a browser automation testing, so end-to-end browser automation stuff. And there's several other unit test libraries for .NET that are nice. And I know our we have a dedicated QA guy,
Yeah.
and he's been experimenting a lot with AI in that regard. He kind of showed off a video the other day of him playing around with, the term everybody's talking about right now, MCP. Uh, so MCP into Playwright, so that Copilot can actually talk directly to the automated browser. Really cool stuff. So I think we're going to find a lot of improvements there.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I have not had time to play with that. I really
Yeah.
want to do more with testing because I think there is a company out there now. I can't think of the name. There is a company who is doing browser automation with AI, and that just sounds like, for one, you could do like scraping on steroids, but then for two,
Hmm.
like you could do a lot of testing if you just describe your product to it, and then you give it a browser at that URL, it'll figure out what it needs to
Yeah.
test.
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more easier for just anybody to do that now with MCP. So MCP, if not familiar, is just like a common protocol for AI to talk to some service.
Is it
Basically
modeled?
defines the tools that they can have access to resources and run actions against something. And so, if you think about the browser as just an external tool, you can take actions to navigate around, and you can get resources, which is the HTML or a screenshot from it. The AI can just talk directly to it and figure out exactly what it wants to do. So it's very cool.
So model context protocol,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's kind of the new thing, the new standard that people are adopting for talking to external resources.
So this is the new API.
It is, and
Yeah.
all it really
From
takes to
XML to JSON
yeah.
to this.
Well, all it is just like a couple different endpoints of a list of resources and a list of actions,
Mm-hmm.
tools that an AI can see, and it's just JSON coming from that, but it's just that standard. You know, um, there were things like this already, um, different flavors from the different LLM providers and AI systems. Anthropic came up with this one, I believe, and really it took off, I think, because of everybody's love of Cursor.
Yeah.
Um, so it became what everybody was using and talking about. And I know some of the other players have just admitted in the last week or two that they'll start to implement MCP.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably gonna end my workday because we are actually at Sweetwater having some more conversations about it. And so um, I'm going to probably end my day and spend a good chunk Monday looking into this
Mhm,
because I've heard it all over the place and I'm super
mhm,
excited about it. One thing I'm starting to see like frameworks and libraries do is create an llm.txt. Like so my
mhm,
framework website.com/llm.txt and it just exports all of the documentation as README. So you have like one place to just go dump context into
mhm.
whatever LLM you're using.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think most platforms, if they want to stay relevant, are going to have to make it AI friendly
yeah,
to be able to interact with it. Even like a lot of the big ones, it, people talk about Stripe all the time.
yeah,
They're redesigning their platform to be super easy for an AI to use, for agents
yeah.
to just go and buy things, which is really interesting.
I'm really excited about UI-less software. I
You're
think
just
software,
interacting with the agent and it's doing its stuff. Yeah.
yes. I have a project in my backlog. I have for Infacto, my business, I have another developer who he's an overseas developer and he's doing all my selfish projects. Laravel developer, super into the framework, very nice. Um, and he's going to be helping with some client work, but mostly the projects I want to do. And one of them, go steal this idea, uh, is a very simple custom like GPT essentially, but you interface it through texts, and
Hmm.
uh, all you do is like you just save the contact as like my assistant or whatever. So I can say I'm gonna say hey Gorgle so that my phone doesn't do anything, but you can say like hey Gorgle, text my assistant to remind me to get milk tomorrow. I'm at the grocery store, and then it would ask a follow up question or it would build out some kind of thing to go store a job somewhere.
Hmm.
And so uh, if anything has a JSON API now, like it could interact with it. But I think with MCP, it becomes easier for a product like that to say, make me a reservation on Open Table,
Yes.
or, um, I don't. Here's my budget: $100 a night in St. Padre, Texas. Go find me a decent one with go find me a decent Airbnb. Um, that's a whole house at around $100 a night, and it will just do that, and it'll let you know. And
Hmm.
Airbnb is going to become valuable for its data and maybe partially because of its UI. Right now, it's really nice because of its UI. It's great and it's got a good index of properties. But building the index of property is like right now maybe half the battle. The other half is making a good user experience. And whenever that goes away, I think there's going to be a lot more um, capitalizing on real good ideas and actual good data. Who has the
Yeah.
actual best places to stay in their index?
Yeah. Yeah, that is a really good thought. And I don't disagree that we're definitely going to see that.
Yeah. And then so user experience is just going to change. Um, and I'm really excited because I think it turns like in-person experiences into something different because we won't be looking at a screen, so it's going to be different to advertise to us, and that's where attention
Hmm.
goes, or at least where advertising goes. Advertising and attention go like hand in hand, and if it's concerts, then that means more money is going to go into concerts. Musicians make more money because that's like what
Hmm.
we want to do instead of watching Netflix. There won't be as much money in Netflix anymore because I can do other things without a screen, and so I won't need it as much. Maybe it's a
Well,
chip in my brain. So, but that's
I
way down the.
wonder. Yeah, I wonder how long it is until Chat GPT starts returning product placements in its responses.
It
Um,
does
I've
kinda.
never had that. I mean, I don't know if that's just on the free one or what, but like paid responses directly
Oh,
from ChatGPT or whatever,
I haven't
right?
seen
If this
response.
is the new interface to anything we're doing, people are going to start paying for placement in those responses.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, because people, once Google became a thing, people started paying to be the top results.
Yeah,
And luckily, like, there is still some skill needed right now, at least in copywriting and stuff to make that work. But whenever it's just like, I'm willing to pay this much per customer, it won't matter. Whoever can spend the most will win, which is
yeah.
almost how advertising is now, but you still have to have some
You have to have
stuff.
something to back it up. Yeah.
I was trying to look for an old prompt where was suggesting products. I was thinking something
Mhm.
different, but it was giving me almost a shopping experience. Um, which it's great. My company, my side company, like pays for GPT and all that, so we use it heavily. We have all this stuff that it can provide for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have
Really
you
useful.
heard? Yeah, have you seen? Speaking of MCP, have you seen all the stuff around like the custom GPTs and how they're connecting with other apps? So HubSpot is a really good example. They have
Mm.
a landing page builder where
Okay.
I'll give it my product and it'll prompt me for, tell me more about it to get good copy. And then it says, do you give me permission to send this to HubSpot? And then like literally in 3 seconds, it gives you a link to that website based on all the prompts you gave it and what it knows. And then
Yeah. That's really
V.io
nice.
has one where it's like AI video. It's very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only dabbled with like custom GPTs,
Hmm.
um, and the different services that it can connect to. One of our guys was just playing around with it a few weeks ago, and he built I think this is a custom GPT that would help you decide what's for dinner
Hmm.
and just shared that out. So that was kind of cool, right? Just it was set up so that this instance or whatever this was, this GPT, its sole purpose was to just figure out what was for dinner for a group of people,
Yeah.
come up with a shopping list and all that stuff. So I could certainly see that
Yeah.
um, happen often.
Yeah. It's good. It's exciting.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into
Yeah.
yeah, building a business and a product. I had this question pop up for me, like, in your opinion or in your experience, like what goes into a good software product idea or a good product idea in general, if you want to get outside of software.
Yeah. Well, the obvious things is having something that's distributable, some path to distribution. That's super key. We're focusing on things that like fit into some niche. Um, there are too many big players who focus on very broad things, and it's hard to compete with them in
Yeah.
those broad systems. But if you can find a small niche that you can write a very tailored application to,
Hmm.
um, and there's not a lot of competition, then it's almost a no-brainer if you have a way to distribute it to those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt came up with, I think it's a 5-point kind of scorecard or a grading system for any product idea that we can run it through. And it's a definite go for it. It's maybe you should do a little more research, or it's a no, this is probably too saturated, too risky.
Mm.
And some of the big weights are just competition in the market, path of distribution. Is it specific? Does it fit a niche? Um, yeah, does it actually solve a need that's not being solved already? Um, but on the flip side, I've also learned that um, if you have something that's fairly generic and maybe it's not unique. If you just get it in front of people, they will have interest in it.
Yeah.
Now, again, my experience was I had a lot of interest. I never took the time to close any of those deals, but just gauging on how many people wanted to talk, how many people expressed some interest in the product, if I would have followed up. Again, it's a generic, it's a time clock system. There's dozens out there they could have gone with, but I was one they were talking to, and I could have sold that.
Mm.
So if you have something, as long as you have a great path to get it out there and to sell it and to close those deals, I think you can sell anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about right now?
Uh, well, some of the products that we're building, and it's all AI. Not all AI, but the things I'm really excited about are very AI focused.
Yeah.
Um, I just I just see we can do so much right now with our tools, um, and even the things that a couple years ago, features in the system that would have been very difficult to implement now could probably be done in a couple days, just because of AI can actually facilitate that feature itself. One
Mhm.
example, I was building the scheduling component in Time Clock now. One of the things that was on the wish list was for some automated process when somebody calls off work, maybe at 5 in the morning, we need to find somebody to replace them.
Yeah.
Um, it can try these people and then try these people, try these people. That would have been a lot harder to solve 2 to 3 years ago than it would be today.
Mm.
That's just, you have some tools that an LLM can uh, call and get information from, and it could probably just facilitate that whole experience, the whole workflow.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff is really exciting. The stuff that couldn't do 3 years ago. It's an afternoon right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I have a client who has sells affiliate products. One of his many avenues of income is affiliate products, and he has like five main affiliates, and it's really like hard to remember how do you link to all those. It's like one wants like ref equals some random ID or like a query parameter where it's you know affiliate equals and it's a string of
Mhm.
letters. I gave all the domains and or which businesses those were and then like how the query parameters identify to ChatGPT and said build me like plain JavaScript and HTML app that does this. And it did it in a less than a minute and it works perfect and it's still working for him and I just pasted that code um, into the website thing and it just
Mhm.
works. And
Awesome.
so I
Yeah.
I would have probably it probably would have taken like an hour. Really easy thing. You just see what the input was, map the domain to a query parameter, and then you're good. But like an hour versus 5 minutes is huge. And so,
Yeah. The
and it
amount of
was
stuff you can
probably,
get done.
yeah, I was able to do that. And yeah, the LLMs are very exciting. And then the other like AI stuff we're not seeing, like the context protocol stuff, like there's going to be a lot of things. UI-less software, I'm very excited about
Mhm.
it. For
Yeah.
sure.
And also, there probably needs to be some focus on things that are not just LLM.
Yeah.
It gets more complicated, obviously. That's what everybody's focusing on right now. But the machine learning side of things, like that's still really relevant. Um, LLMs are getting all the love right now, but I
Because
think
they're easier to interface with.
yeah, and they're a commodity now too.
Yeah.
I can I can spend 15 cents and process 1 million tokens. Like, man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, anything else you wanna talk about that you're excited about? You wanna hit on or promote?
Um, Really just like everything that's going on in our company. Like it's uh it's hard to know what we'll even do like in a few weeks. When Matt and I started, it it was like, do we hire? We just looked at this yesterday. We said, do we hire 2 developers or 3 developers?
Yeah.
And it was like a big decision to make, and then it just kept going. So, and that was just in September. Um, so I'm excited about the trajectory that we have. Um, yeah, whatever we end up at the end of the year, what we look like, I have no idea. But hopefully it's up.
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know where we're going, but I hope it's up.
Yeah.
I like I like that. That's what I'm thinking too.
Yep.
Uh, anything you want to promote? What's the BT Pro website?
Yep. btprosolutions.com. Um, I think it's a great looking website. Kevin did a fantastic job
Hmm.
doing that. I think there's a game on the 404 page, so you can check that out. Um, we just, uh, as far as other little products too, we just launched something called We All Play.
Hmm.
Um, Kevin came up with this idea. This was a few months ago. It's just like a place where us parents, it's hard to find activities that our kids can go and do. So, like, as far as signing up for soccer, signing up for baseball, whatever. In some areas, it's just you have to go digging to try and find those resources. So we're trying to develop just a small app that's going to be for free that just kind of combine and consolidate all those resources. Um, we launched an initial version a couple weeks ago. It's pretty simple right now, but we're gonna add quite a bit to it. So check that out if you have some kids. Yeah, that's
You
weallplay.io, I think is the domain.
okay? We all play.io. Cool. What else you want to promote? You guys have anything else that's public right now that people may find interesting?
Um, we did a few weeks ago launched a tiny app, and um, I don't like making a big deal about this one because it's simple. So it's called autoincrement.io, and all the API does is return back something in a sequence, like the next number in a sequence. And you can do some customization about uh, the numbers in the sequence, some formatting in the sequence, some min and max, whether it cycles back through. Um, so it's a very, very simple idea, but we ran into some situations where we actually needed it. And this was in we click a HubSpot implementation. HubSpot doesn't have a way to have an incrementing number without doing some weird scripting and storing things in the HubDB. So I'm just like, can I just write a quick little app and do that? And then that was just kind of a practice for having a little app, implementing recurring payment in Stripe for it. So that's out there. It's a very specific use case for it. If you have a distributed system that can't do auto incrementing IDs atomically, and you, for some reason, need that because it's more human readable, you can use that API and get them.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't played with it yet. I read the docs and it's like, wow, this is very
it's really
specific.
simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's simple. It's like such a simple, dumb idea, but it only took like a couple evenings to get
Mhm.
that up and running. So it's not like we wasted a bunch of time on it.
Nice.
But that
What
was just
about
one thing that
yeah.
I again we had this problem. I said, why don't I just like build an app for that, turn it into a product, and it was just a test to see if it
Mhm.
would work.
Uh, yeah, that's that's fun. It's like
Yeah,
I love having a problem or an idea, and then like 2 days later, there's a thing out there on the internet
yeah,
that solves the problem. It's great.
yeah,
What about future products? Anything that you don't want to hold too tight to your chest that you want us to look out
yeah.
for?
Um, yeah, like the big one we're working on. uh, is it's an AI platform. Um, I'm trying to think about what's all secret, what's not, but it's an AI platform, and the parts that I feel passionate about are enabling um, more enterprise developers to be able to build applications that have an AI component directly tied into it.
Mm,
That's not the whole thing. It's very agent focused, but uh, but I think within the next, hopefully by September, we certainly will have something out there. Uh, but if we're going to launch small and fast, hopefully then in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be releasing some things.
awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So secret projects coming soon. Very exciting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll cut us off here. I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good to talk to you.
Yeah. It was great. Thank you very much.